I have only one goal: to find the traitor and make him pay. I've always believed that the rules in this world are simple: trust but verify. But when my best assistant, Josh, betrayed me, stole my money, and disappeared, I realized that trust is an illusion. Now I have only one goal: to find the traitor and make him pay. My name is Jake Rowan. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, a city of contrasts where luxury meets poverty and dreams easily turn into nightmares. My childhood years were filled with illusions of what my future would be like. I imagined a big house with a swimming pool, a shiny car in a driveway, and a fat wallet full of money. These images were so vivid that it seemed as if I could just reach out my hand and they would become reality. But the older I got, the clearer I realized that this city is not as simple as it seems. It's as deceptive as a mirage in the desert. It was almost impossible to succeed in an honest way. Every step forward required compromise. Every success was accompanied by shadows of doubt. The world around me gradually revealed its dark sides, and with it my view of things changed. Gradually I realized that all those bright dreams of my childhood could become reality, but the price for them would be too high. My path started with small deeds: stealing phones, selling drugs at school. But every day, these steps became more and more confident, and what yesterday seemed a small matter, today turned out to be a major operation. Like a snowball rolling down a mountain, my business grew, consuming more and more space around me. By the time I turned 20, I was already at the head of a small network of drug dealers and knew all the right people. My name became known in certain circles, and people started coming to me for help where the law was powerless. Connections grew, and each new contact brought new opportunities. Money flowed into my pockets, and the power I wielded became more and more tangible. Life became easier, but also more dangerous. The ease with which money appeared and disappeared created the illusion of invulnerability. However, under this mask of calmness there was tension, readiness to face trouble at any moment. But despite this, life flowed smoothly, as if on rails, and nothing foreshadowed trouble. One day, my office door creaked open quietly, revealing my old friend Josh. His appearance was unexpected. We hadn't seen each other in a long time, and our paths rarely crossed. The moment he walked in, however, I felt a chill in my chest. Something in his gaze, in his demeanor, told me that this was no ordinary visit. This was something more, something that would change the entire course of my plans. We'd known each other since we were kids, since the days when the world seemed simple and straightforward and the future seemed like an endless stream of possibilities. Josh was one of those kids they used to say, "He'll never amount to anything." His life seemed destined for a dull existence, full of disappointment and defeat. He was someone who went with the flow, not trying to fight against the tide of fate, accepting the blows of life silently and obediently. At school, we sat at the same desk, but our paths diverged as soon as the bell rang. I was always striving for something more, trying to find my way, even if that way led through thorns. Josh stayed in the shadows, watching the world through the prism of his own unfulfilled hopes. We met from time to time, mostly by chance, in some bar or on the street. We drank together, discussed the latest news, but our connection remained formal, lacking depth and sincerity. The day Josh approached me with this request, however, everything changed. His face was pale, his eyes troubled. He was nervous, like a man taking the final step into the abyss. "Jake, I need money," he said, looking somewhere in the distance, avoiding my gaze. His voice sounded hoarse, as if the words were stuck in his throat, unwilling to come out. I looked at him carefully, trying to figure out what made him come to me. He'd stayed out of my world until now, preferring to stay out of the dark stuff. But now he stood before me, ready to cross the line that separated him from the life he had always avoided. "I know you have connections," he continued, finally looking up. "Let me work for you." Those words sounded like an admission of defeat, like a last hope for salvation. I could see how hard this decision had been for him, how much he had struggled with himself before coming to me. His request hung in the air like a fog enveloping us both. I sensed there was more behind those words than just a need for money. Maybe it was a desperate cry for help, an attempt to get out of the quagmire he'd driven himself into. Or maybe it was the first step towards self-destruction, toward a world from which there is no return. I almost didn't hesitate. Why not? The guy seemed okay. Let him try. After all, an extra helper never hurts. Thus began our journey through the dark world of business together. Josh turned out to be a surprisingly fast learner. He grasped everything on the fly, as if he was born for this business. Soon he became not just an assistant, but my right-hand man. His abilities were impressive. He found solutions where others saw dead ends and could keep his mouth shut when necessary. We worked side by side, and the money flowed. Year after year, our income increased, and I began to trust him more than anyone else. We became true partners, and I felt I could rely on him in any situation. But as ancient wisdom says, trust is a fragile thing, like glass. It can shatter at any moment, leaving only shards. And so one evening when I was sitting at home, enjoying the peace and quiet, the phone rang. On the line was my informant, the guy who always knew where and what was going on. "Jake, you better be the first to know," he said, and you could hear the worry in his voice. Josh absconded with the money. Those words hit me like an icy waterfall. They penetrated my heart, freezing it. A whole host of questions instantly flashed through my mind. How's that possible? How could he? Josh, my loyal assistant, the man I trusted more than I trusted myself, had betrayed me. The money we'd made together had ended up in the hands of someone who promised to be my ally. I didn't believe it at first, but my doubts quickly dissipated when I decided to verify the information. I called a few people I trusted as much as I trusted Josh. Their answers confirmed my worst fears. Yes, Josh had indeed taken a large sum of money and disappeared. No one knew where he had gone or why he needed so much money. Reality came crashing down on me hard. Everything we'd built together crumbled in an instant. I felt betrayed, cheated, humiliated. Anger boiled inside me, mixed with a sense of helplessness. How could I have made such a mistake? How could I have believed this man? But the anger quickly gave way to cold fury. I knew Josh had to pay for his betrayal. No excuse, no reason could atone for what he'd done. In my world, mistakes like that are never forgiven. Never. I sat in my office, staring at the walls that once symbolized my strength and power. Now they reminded me of weakness, of how easily I could lose control. But I wasn't about to give in. My mind was spinning with dark thoughts. Did Josh think he could escape? Wrong. Did he think he could hide? Wrong. I will find him, and when I do, he'll regret the day he decided to betray me. Now I had one thing on my mind: find Josh and get the money back. I wasn't going to give up without a fight. This lesson had cost me dearly, but I wasn't going to let him get away with it. The fire of revenge raged inside me, and I knew I would do whatever was necessary to punish the traitor. I could not afford to sit idly by. I had to act quickly and decisively. The first thing I did was contact the few people who might have known about Josh's plans. One of them, an old acquaintance named Mark, said he heard rumors that Josh was planning to leave town. But where exactly, no one knew for sure. The next step was to gather all available information. I mobilized my men, assigned them to watch every possible escape route. Surveillance cameras, phone calls, bank account checks, it all went into action. I needed any lead, any indication of where Josh might be. As the days passed, the tension built. Every hour without news seemed like an eternity. Finally, one of my informants reported that he'd noticed suspicious activity at a bank on the outskirts of town. A large account had been withdrawn there, and witnesses claimed to have seen a man who looked like Josh. That was the lead I was looking for. I went there immediately, hoping to catch him red-handed. But when I got there, Josh was gone. The bank was empty, and the employees refused to comment. It looked like he'd managed to slip away again. My blood boiled with anger. I could feel a wave of hatred rising inside me. This man I trusted had betrayed me in the most despicable way. But I wasn't going to back down. I knew that sooner or later he would make a mistake, and then I would be ready. I went back to the office and summoned my closest associates. We worked out a plan of action. I wanted every corner of this city under control. No one would be able to hide from me. My orders were to find Josh at any cost. He may try to run, he may think he's in hiding, but I will find him. And when I do, the next step was obvious: widen the search. I utilized all my resources, including those working outside the law. Every corner in this city was controlled by someone, and sooner or later, they would come across one of my men. Meanwhile, days replaced nights, and the tension only increased. Each new rumor, each new piece of information brought me closer to a clue. Finally, after a week of searching, I received a message from one of my contacts. Josh had been spotted in a small town on the state line. He was trying to sell stolen money and buy fake IDs. That was the tipping point. I assembled a team and headed there. Our arrival was sudden and swift. We stormed the building, giving Josh no chance to escape. He ended up trapped, surrounded on all sides. When I went inside, I saw his terrified face. He stood with his back against the wall, trembling and pale. I could see the terror in his eyes, and I savored the moment. I walked slowly toward him, feeling the adrenaline pulsing through my veins. At that moment, I was ready to tear him apart with my own hands. "Did you think you could escape?" I asked, stepping in close. "Did you think you could betray me and get away with it?" Josh tried to say something, but his voice trailed off. He fell to his knees, begging for mercy. But I wasn't going to listen to his excuses. I signaled to my men, and they grabbed his arms tightly. "You will pay for your betrayal," I whispered in his ear, "and the price will be your life." I walked out of the building, leaving Josh in the care of my men. I knew they would do what they needed to do. Josh isn't getting out of here alive. His body will be found later, dumped in a landfill like garbage, and no one will remember him. That's the price of betrayal in my world.